Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today we're looking at Cerebus, the Aardvark #1. This is the first issue that launched the legendary run of Dave Sims' comic. Uh, Aardvark Vanaheim presents it's his own comic, and just a little curious aside. Somebody I don't know who, my voice is cracking already. Somebody I don't know who got the idea to do a counterfeit copy. So they act, believe it or not, somebody made a counterfeit. So they fired up a press and they made it. And the only difference between the counterfeit, this is the real one. I checked it out. The only difference between the counterfeit and the original is the original is that is worse quality. So if you if you get a really good quality copy of Cerebus the Aardvark #1, odds are you got the counterfeit copy. How's that for a little twist? So let's look at the chat. We got Haldir again in the chat. Thank you. Yep, guys, please sign up for Heroic Tales Substack. I have something like 70 signups. I know I haven't been pushing it a lot. I'm a terrible salesman. I got to work on that. But Michael Bancroft has offered to host my launch party for my comic Heroic Tales. If it's approved, it will launch April 19th at 9 p.m. And if I get he will launch my comic for me, on his channel. He has a big platform, but I need to get his criteria is I have to have 100 signups, and I'm at 70. So if I could get 30 more people to sign up for my comic, he will help me launch. So now I'm at the point where I never pushed it to begging. How's that? Right to begging. So thanks. Could people sign up? I know I've been terrible about promoting myself. I just get so embarrassed about promoting myself. And now I've got to wake up in the morning. Good morning. Excited for Cerebus and the Sunday Comics. Thank you. What Geeks Do Network. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opening. Really elevated my channel. I still love that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about this too. What are we? Good morning. Ben Sabar, voice actor. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Thank you. New name. Thank you so much. We'll have a sip of coffee on you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. What characters do you voice? Have a blessed day. Thank you. Everybody have a blessed day. It's a Sunday. It's a Sunday. And Marcus is here. Hey, Marcus, how are you? How's everything? Good to see you, Marcus. So, again, this is Dave Sim, who, by the way, is an interesting person. Before I open up the comic, let's get a little bit of context. Forgive me, waking up was rather difficult. I woke up at 3:30 last night with a disturbing dream, and I just had to write it down, and then I couldn't fall back to sleep till about 5, and then, of course, I overslept. I tried to wake up at least 9 o'clock on these Sunday mornings, so I could get a little awake, get some coffee in me, get some caffeine, but I slept in a little bit too long, so I'm just waking up. All right, so Dave Sim. What can I say about Dave Sim? He's a legend in the comic book industry. He's don't think of it as promoting yourself. Rather, you're promoting your product. Good point. That actually helps. Thank you. Good point. I've done work for Toyota, Adidas, and a bunch of indie animation. Cool. Going to a mini con to see Andy. Well, tell him I said hello. For those of you who don't know, he's talking about Dennis Turner and Andy Smith. They are the creators of Cordrath, the comic, the Kickstarter comic. So Dave Sim, let me start a bit. Focus. So Dave Sim is one of the bigwigs in this 80s independent boom of comics. He had an idea for making a comic, and he shopped it around, and I forget exactly if everybody rejected him or if he just got the idea to self-publish it himself. Yeah, he forgive me. Trying to wake up. He okay. So he got the idea to make a comic book. So legend has it. This is weird. This is weird. Legend has it that he took LSD, and during the LSD, he had a vision, an epiphany, a crazed schizophrenic induced dream, whatever you want to call it. He had a where God told him to make a 300 issue comic. I'm not making that up. That's what he did. And that comic was Cerebus. And then he misspelled Cerebus. So it's Cerebus instead of the three-headed dog. So he had this frantic idea to make this comic, and he shopped it around, and then he got the idea, I'm just going to self-publish it. So this is his company to make this comic. At the time, he was in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. And this is a spoof on Conan the Barbarian. So these are, this is like a Conan thing, and he's an aardvark. That's the thing. So there was like silly animals. So there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and here is the actual Cerebus the Aardvark, published Kitchener, Ontario, published bi-monthly, 1977, Dave Sim, volume 1, number 1. And here is all the writing from the publisher. The publisher was Debbie. I can't pronounce her name, but she ended up becoming his girlfriend and then becoming his wife. Oh, let's talk a little bit about this itself. So what happened was he self-published this comic, and he was very successful, and he didn't make too many of the comics, hence the market for counterfeits. So it became a hit, and it was supposed to come out every other month. And of course, the production schedule and workload and everything, it caused trouble, and he would get later and later, and he eventually hired Gerhardt to do the backgrounds, and so it became like a little mini studio. So him and Debbie, they worked together. They started dating. They got married. They got separated. They got divorced, and so that, just think about that during the course of this comic. This comic is famous for its letters pages. So I don't know. Does anybody here have these collected? They called them the phone book editions. So Dave Sim was one of the early pioneers of taking all of the comics, reprinting them into these thick, literally like phone book sized editions, like Church and State, Mothers and Daughters. I forget the other ones, but he pioneered this, and it was a good way to keep the comics in print and keep them in the public eye, was to have these comics constantly in print. So that's the thing about these comics. These comics come and go. You take 10 or so, or even more in this case, put them in a big, thick, oversized phone book. Praetor says this. He has the first phone book. What is the name of the first phone book? And 1 to 25. So they're 25 issues a piece in the phone book. I'm a little off today. I'm sorry. So I would keep them in print. So now let me ask you, Praetor, do they have the letters pages in these phone books? Because I was going to get the phone book editions, the collections, but the letters pages in this comic are absolutely legendary. And that's one of the reasons why I'm against CGCing comics and slabbing comics. And I understand affordability. I'm not crazy. I'm not. I'm stupid and crazy, but for other reasons, not this reason. So this is expensive. This is like $1,000. This comic I got a couple of years ago for a good price. But yeah, Prater says it doesn't. I don't think it has the letters pages, and I think he does it on purpose. I can imagine the pressure of both of them to make the comic, but not. Yes, absolutely. You're jumping ahead of myself. Yeah. So there would be letters pages, and and she would answer, he would answer, and back and forth. And you see the letters page is like half the drama of the comic. It starts out with the excitement, the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed excitement of a young guy excited to make a comic book, and then a young woman excited to be working with with the comics self-publishing, then the excitement of like a budding relationship, a marriage, and then just the stress of constant work. Dave, it was like a crazed madman, just working, working. He wanted to get 300 issues done, but he wasn't scrimping on the quality. So he was just working longer and longer and longer, and putting in more detail till he finally realized he needed help, and he hired somebody to do backgrounds. And you'll see that he does a lot of tricks to help him, but creative tricks, not like skimpy tricks. And then you see the breakup, and then you see the bitterness in Dave. And undiagnosed doctor here. I think you see like bouts of like maybe schizophrenia, depression, anger, like all the stages of like he's mad at all women. And then he becomes religious, and I think he converted. He was Jewish at the beginning, and I think he converted to like a weird form of Christianity, and eventually like a hybrid of Christianity and Islam. I'm not even making this up. All within the courses of this 300-page epic comic that goes through the life, like, to the death of Cerebus. I don't think I'm telling tales out of but issue 300, he's he dies of old age. So he starts as a young aardvark, and dies as an old man aardvark in the comic. And so if you get this comic, and you get the phone book editions, you're just getting the comic. But if you get the floppies, you're getting the whole drama of the letters page and the real life behind the scenes story. It is legendary. And that, to be honest, is why I picked up Cerebus every once in a while when the cover struck me or whatever, because it was one of those comics that was kind of hard to find. But then when I started hearing about all the controversy, Dave wrote an article, or a letter rather, about he was staunchly anti-feminist, and I think it was from his anger over the divorce, because this was a guy who locked himself in his studio and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. It's not like he knew a lot of people, so he was bitter when his marriage went south, and yeah, I don't think he was meeting too many. So his anger at his yeah, and you can understand when you get divorced, you're angry, guys. I'm not going to say he's right, she's wrong. I never met either one of these people, so I think he just took it out on everybody, just lashing out, just a hurt person with I do think some psychological issues. So there you go. So there's all the setup of behind the scenes of the comic. And keep in mind, this was a person who was like doing LSD before the comic even came out. So there's a little bit of that. Okay, so let's look at the comments before I open up the book. Damn, John, go deep into the review. Yeah. Well, that again, I think not talking about this stuff is of either avoiding or ignorant. Like if you just got all the phone books, and again, nothing against all the people who just got all the phone book editions, the big collections, you're missing half the drama. The course of religion seems to be very prevalent these days. Yes. You brought up an interesting topic that my wife and I were just talking about Friday night, that as crazy as the world is, there seems to be, and I don't know, my circle isn't that big, but there seems to be like, the more the crazy the world is, I think like there's a groundswell of people like coming back to religion. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what do you guys think? Hurt people. Yes. I think what you're saying is, if you're a hurt person, you can't help it but go out to try to hurt other people. Yes, I agree. And I think I was the same way. In your 20s, you lose your way, you get a little angry, couple broken relationships, you turn into a jerk. We are our own character arcs, right? What geeks do, I didn't know any of that. Very interesting. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm here. Yeah. Cool. I hope you're interested in it. Drama. Yes. It ain't fun being hurt. Absolutely. It ain't fun being hurt. But you know what? If you want to be a storyteller, and you just wake up, sit down at the coffee table, butter your bread, drink your coffee, and you haven't experienced life, I'm sure you could write a good story. I'm sure you could, just like some people wake up, pick up a guitar, and they have a natural aptitude for it, and they become great musicians. But I think there's a lot to be said for experience, a lot to be said for practice. And if you want to be a storyteller, I think you got to go out and make stupid mistakes. So like to harp on a subject, like if you making fun of young comic book creators for going out and doing silly things like going to clubs that are questionable, and dude, that's all part of telling a story. Like it's easy when you're 50 years old and you're sitting there married and to bust on it, but yep, that's what, if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, that's good. I shouldn't be telling tales out of stool. So I never read this series. I wish I had, though. Remind me that when I'm done. Bring that up when I'm done. Or there's something I want to talk about when we get to that's true, John. Getting butt kicked by life creates great stories. Yes. I just finished coffee number one. Now pouring cup number two. Yep. I'm finished. This is coffee cup number two. So let me take this swig. All right. All right. Just finished coffee number two. Let's get the first coffee table. The first phone book edition collects 1 to 25. Then the second is High Society. That is the one that put him on the map. High Society issues 26 to 50. I think that was the high point of selling. And then Church of State and Church and State 2, Jaka's Story, Melmoth, Flight, Woman. Woman is where that's issue 163 to 174. I think that's where the controversy starts with his anti-feminism stuff, and I think that's where like the divorce is going on. Reads, Minds, Guys, Rick's Story, Going Home, Foreman Void, Later Days, The Last Days. And those are all the collections. So you can get all of these collections for reasonably priced. He does a good job of keeping them in print. So that's the name of all the trades if anybody's interested. But let's open it up. Maybe it's crap. Maybe you don't like it. So let's getting coffee at the gas station. and then gross. Depends on the gas station. There's a gas station here that has Tim Hortons in it. So, but then again, I say I get coffee at the Tim Hortons, not at a gas station. So let's open up the comic. And so here we have the art. All right. And and I'm not done with the series. I think I'm up to issue like 102 out of 300. So but I will say, I think the art is fabulous, and it gets so much better, so much better. So this is 3 panels. Cerebus, the Aardvark, 1977, Dave Sim. Oh, I forgot to tell this quick little story. So let me tell this quick little story. So Cerebus, the Aardvark comes out. I already made a short. If you look into my playlist and shorts, you'll see this. But while I was reading this comic, I think it was issue 8. I saw in the letters page. Oh man, if I was only professional, I would have got this out and re-showed it. But I saw in the letters page that Dave Sim thanks Larry Morando and the Incredible Pulp for having his first in-store appearance. Now, why does that matter? Well, that store was my comic book store. That was before I worked there. I was a chubby little kid, and Dave Sim came to the Pulp and gave away copies of Cerebus and autographed. And I couldn't remember. It was just, those memories, it didn't really mean that much to me as a kid, because I just went in there and there was a guy handing out a comic book of black and white that I wasn't interested. I wanted to get my John Byrne X-Men's and my, you know what I mean? Like I didn't care. And he did a store appearance, and Dave said it was great. It was the first store appearance. It had an impact on him. And that's one of the things that he started doing, was going to stores and pushing his comic book. So it wasn't 1977, of course. I think it was closer to 80. And remember, Dave Sim's publishing schedule right out the window, like almost instantly. So when I saw that, I said, I got to talk to Dave Sim. So I Googled his name. And if you Google Dave Sim's name, you could get his home phone number. I'm not telling tales out of school. you could find his phone number. So I was like, oh, I had Dave Sim's phone number, and I sat on it for like 6 months because I'm like, do I have the right to call Dave Sim? Who the hell am I? So I'm like, you know what? He put his phone number on the internet. I'm going to call. So I called. Goes right to an answering machine. Smart guy. So I leave a message, and I'm like, okay, that was my run in with Dave Sim. The next day, I get a call, and I pick up the phone. It's Dave Sim. I'm like, oh my god! Now I'm all stammering and stuttering and like, and he's like, oh, I got yeah. I got because I called a message. I said, "Hi, I'm John from John's Long Box. I do a YouTube channel where I talk to creators about comic books, and I saw in issue 8 that you had did an in-store appearance in the Incredible Pulp. Well, that was my comic book store, and I was there, and I was hoping that you could come on my channel. We could talk about Cerebus. We could talk about that in-store appearance. Blah 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 blah." So he called me back, and he talked to me about that in-store appearance. And then he was like, "Oh, okay, I gotta go." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." He politely said no. He didn't want to come on camera. He didn't want to, come on somebody else's channel. Um, Again, there's a lot of controversies about him. I'm not going to go into all of his controversies. So you could Google up Dave Sim and find out a lot. Some of them are actually pretty shocking. So I thanked him for his time and being polite, and that was the end of it. Well, he calls me back the next day. Apparently he had to do something. So, and I interested. So we talked again. And then we ended up talking back and forth for like 4 days. Just long conversations about the comic book, about the appearance. And what he had me do was he has his own there's a fan website. I forget the name of the person who created the website, and it's a fan website. And there's a segment that he called a moment with Dave Sim. So if you Google a moment of Dave Sim in December of 2023, you will see it's all about our conversation, and it's got photographs. And one of those photographs is me looking at Dave Sim, completely disinterested, going, thinking this doesn't have laser beams, superpowers, and capes, and John Byrne artwork. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny. So, one of the things Dave asked is if I would like to talk to Larry. I've been trying to get Larry, the owner of the comic book store. He actually only lives like 3 or 4 blocks away from me, to come on my channel and just talk about that comic book store, that in-store appearance, and maybe bring up those photographs and see if he could name it, because Dave would love to know the names of the people in those photographs. So I'm in the process of trying to figure that out. So there, boom. That's all the rambling that I wanted to talk about. So let's actually open up the comic. So now we have the comic. And is it too dark? I've been turning off the overhead light because of the glare, and then just working with this light. So let me just know if it's too dark. There, I moved the light now that because it's been putting such a glare on the cover. So here is the opening. Here's the indicia, 1977-78, and here is the first panel. So here we got the first panel, and it's funny because I'm up to issue 102, and at that point he has Gerhardt as the background guy, and Dave Sim's artwork. So this just looks so primitive, and it's funny how you forget. So there you go. The light looks good to how the, but look at all the. I can only. I know. When I see black and white comics, I immediately go to Will Eisner. And that's funny because Will Eisner didn't really work at black and white comics. Well, the graphic novels did later on. But I learned about, when I first heard about Will Eisner, I should do those comics, was The Spirit. The Kitchen Sink Spirits were reprints in black and white. So in my mind, The Spirit is a black and white comic, even though in reality, it was originally a color comic. So I bought color hardcover collections, and it's funny because they just don't look right to me. So when I see black and white comics, whether it's Teenage Mutant Turtles, Wolf and Batsy, my mind immediately goes to Will Eisner. So, but I love it. So he's just come running into town. Look at this. Actually looks like my cousin Ricky. Hey Ricky, he looks exactly like that, or at least he did back in when I was a kid. Ricky's significantly older than me, and then we got this freakazoid on a horse. And look at this primitive drawing of Cerebus. Now, this is, at this point, this is firmly tongue-in-cheek spoofing on Conan. And now look, Look at all the cheats that he does that are actually very creative. Rather than spend time with all the details, he was very heavy-handed. When in doubt, black it out. I think Marcus told me that, and he's and it's all sword and sorcery tropes. He's in the tavern, you know, just look at the light. Guy grabs his tail, and as again, I'm up to issue 102, and as far as I know, maybe later on. I mean, 102. That means I'm only a third of the way through the series. There's only one aardvark. There's only one funny talking. Oh, and that's another thing I forgot to mention. There, there was a trend of funny animals, and I hated funny talking animals at the time, and that included Cerebus the aardvark, Howard the duck, um, Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew, and Cerebus and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I hated that as a kid. I did not want to read about funny talking anthropomorphic talking animals in comic books. I was a pain in the ass kid. I wanted what I wanted, and what I wanted was John Byrne X-Men, George Perez Fantastic Four, Marv Wolfman Teen Titans. That's what I wanted. I wanted comic books like that. And anything that deviated from that, I was not interested in. I was not into sword and sorcery. I was kind of into sci-fi. I say I wasn't, but I look back, I got some sci-fi comics. And I definitely wasn't into funny talking animals. I got a couple of Howard the Duck comics as a kid, and I did not get them. I did not appreciate it. And full disclosure, it wasn't for me. Howard the Duck is actually like a more adult comic, not adult in point, adult as the sensibilities. I appreciated Howard the Duck more as an adult. And I think had I read Cerebus as a kid, I would have been bored out of my mind. Okay. When in doubt, black it out. Damn, I'm starting to hear too much. Oh, am I boring you? Am I boring you? I'm sorry. Oh, Wally Wood said that. Okay. I love black and white out. I'm used to it from reading manga. Color comics can be great, but sometimes the color is too much. Yes. I agree. Sometimes I see too much color in a comic, and I'm like, come on. But look at this. So this is the trope. The mysterious stranger runs into town, goes into the tavern, talks to the barkeep, and again, look at this wonderful storytelling. And pulls out a sword. The sword's already got blood on it. I admire your cowardice, or be a guest, and I've always served the guest. So he asks for a room, and they're just like, we can't serve you. You're and then he sits in the corner, and look again, all the shadows, all the heavy blacking, and then just look how out of place he looks. He looks out of place in the fact that he's a creature. Everybody else is human. And he looks out of place in the fact that like he's so cartoony while everybody else is kind of realistic. And then here, look, just again, very creative, skilled use of efficiency of his time. Okay, if you understand what I'm saying. So again, look at these. He doesn't. He'll spend a lot of time on a panel like this. Just outstanding. So he's in search of the flame jewel. So it's a classic Conan heist. He comes to town. He even has a goof on if you read Conan the Barbarian. I forget if I've ever done Conan the Barbarian comics, but the early Barry Windsor Smith comics, he wore this helmet exactly like that. So this is purposely lovingly mocking, tongue-in-cheek mocking Conan the Barbarian. So, he's just hiding in the bushes, comes rushing out. This creature is in shadow. He's by Clovis's beard, and now sword fight, hijinks, sword play. And then he's just slicing and dicing, to quote Gru the Wanderer. Slicing and dicing, fighting the creature, and he died, becoming so he's fighting a literal shadow monster. And when he kills it, it turns, instead of becoming a three-dimensional shadow, it becomes a one-dimensional shadow, and then good work. We defeated this beast of sorcery, and here the ominous looking bad guy, Atek Rock, Saram, he doing all of this spell casting. I love this panel. Just check out the panel. So I hope I'm stressing Dave Sim can draw. Dave Sim absolutely could draw. Dave Sim's got his chops as far as draftsmanship, and he's got his chops as far as storytelling. And just I love it. It's funny because every once in a while I do see like John Byrne, like circular, organic looking lines in some of his images, you know. And then we get classic Dave Sim. I gotta catch up with the time allotment artwork tricks. So here we got one panel setting up everything, a lot of darkness. Now look at this panel. Look at that. That is awesome. That is awesome. You know, and the use of the darkness cuts down on his time. Why? He's in a dungeon. Perfect. It's perfect. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to draw a lot of detail. I can draw a lot of shadows, and it works. And this, like, look at that panel. You don't need no stinking backgrounds. You know, close up on the. I love that close up on the skeletal head, and then we got this attack. And normally I'm a big on like too much of the backgrounds are all the same color, but I love this perfect jet black and then these perfectly delineated panels. So you see now this is the only time I'm gonna say that there's like a disconnect. So when you're reading the comic books, you always do like a Z pattern. So you go like this. Do you go here? Because this is first. So this, but the thing is, you could read both of these panels in either order and it kind of makes sense. So that to me is a minor problem. I'm not gonna get too upset. And I just realized that I've been ignoring the chat. So I see What Geeks Do Network. Who is the Samurai Rabbit again? That is Usagi Yojimbo by Stan Sakai. Now, that is perhaps my favorite comic that is still currently being produced. Not perhaps. It is. And I base that on when I get that comic every month in my mailed. I get my comics from a discount comic book service because it's like 35 to 50% off. I'm sorry guys, but economics is a real factor. And when I open it up and I see that that's in, I read it first. I read it first. When you're 56 years old, you don't put your favorite comics on the back of the stack, forget about them, and never read them, which I used to do. You want to read them because tomorrow could be your last day. You put the comics you want to read on top of the stack and read it right after dinner. So that's how I could tell Usagi Yojimbo is my favorite comic. Kirby. No, John, you're not boring me. I'm just hearing a lot of it when in doubt, black it out. It's rough trying to apply and stay away. Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarification. Crenshaw. I haven't seen Crenshaw in a long time. I never read Cerebus for the same reason. I thought I'd be bored with it. Let's bring that up again, Crenshaw, and who the other guy, I forget who it was. Let's bring that up when I'm done. Okay, we'll circle back on that, which a term that I can't stand, but I don't know. it's kind of appropriate. I've grown to love black and white art over color nowadays. I often feel, oh wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Um, let's talk about two comics that I absolutely love that are current. Okay, let's talk about Wolf and Batsy by Brian Bow. If that comic was in color, I think it would be a mistake. That is a tribute to horror movies, to black and white. You know, I don't want to say film noir, but maybe film noir is the right word. But it moody, atmospheric, old time horror, and it absolutely works in black and white. But when I see his colors, oh my god, for the covers, they're outstanding. Now the other comic I look at is a Horace H. Hoover. Both of them are former Alterna comics. Both of them are being crowdfunded as we speak. Well, Fabrizio is getting Horace H. Hoover ready to be crowdfunded, and he's going to re-release 1 and 2 with I think 3 and 4 at the same time. So it's a great time to be a Horace H. Hoover fan. But anyway, I digress. That comic with Fabrizio's unique limited color palette works so well that if that was in black and white, I think it would be diminished. So I love this comment. Praetor is a very insightful comment, but I agree. But it also, this is going to sound like I'm bashing on Ethan Van Sciver, and I'm not. I do respect Ethan Van Sciver. I think he lost his way a little bit. I think he's getting a little carried away these days, but he is a phenomenal artist. But I think the coloring in Cyberfrog is probably what you're talking about. It's too much. It's too much. It's like all I could think of is that the movie Amadeus when when Amadeus does the opera and the emperor goes, "There's too many notes. There's too many notes." And Salieri tries to filibuster. He goes, "Oh yeah, the ear can only hear so many notes, blah 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 blah." You know, but I look at this sometimes when I'm looking at a comic or even a movie, I'm like, there's just too many colors, there's too much to look at to the point where it becomes a little bit distracting. And again, know, consider the source. I'm nobody. I usually let shadow. Yes, Marcus does. I do like the coloring of Marcus' artwork. Reminds me of like of Jim. I almost said Jim Shooter. Jim Starlin. So here we got sword fight. So I love this like tribute. It's definitely a tribute. Definitely. It's definitely a tribute to the Harry Hassan animated skeleton. But look, fighting swords. There's really look at this rough sketch. Look at that. There's not that much drawing going on. Oh, I'm sorry, my hand's in the way. There's not that much drawing going on, but there's a lot of storytelling. And the panic. Look at that. And then look at this page. 4 panels with minimal drawing, but there's animation. There's story going on, and who knows how long it took. But this is Dave Sin utilizing creativity, art to adversary, limited time. This is his first comic. He doesn't know if he's going to be sucked, but in his mind, he's making the 300 comics. So in his mind, he's preparing for the long haul. So he's already hedging his bets. Is that the correct term? By managing his time, and you'll see he will make up the time in other panels. But I love this. Just look at how much darkness, and again, the location sets this. We are in a Dungeons and Dragons, situation. We got, a door opening up for flowers. What madness is this? And what happens? The flowers are setting off a drug hallucination. I wonder where that idea came from. We got this like Kirby Ditko-esque distortion of time and space. And this is all tricks and traps for like Dungeons and Dragons. I would love to ask him. I never asked him, did he play Dungeons and Dragons? That seems to be one of my go-to questions. And the explorers are going through. Now look at this wonderful, the flame jewel. We got to find the flame jewel. Now that I'm thinking about it, I never thought of it before. At least I didn't last time I read it, which is only, a couple of years ago. I wonder if this is inspired from the D&D books, the flame jewel and everything. And just again, we got the darkness, streams of light, just so he could have figures in the background. And again, notice we have an upwards angle, we have a flat angle, we have a slightly worm's eye angle. He's keeping everything visually interesting while using a lot of heavy blacks. Doing a great job. Now, again, look at that. Doesn't that kind of remind you of like Frank Miller over here? That is just wonderful. Let's focus on that while I go back to some of the comments. I haven't actually read Cyberfrog. Shh, don't tell anyone, but from seeing his finished pages before and after color, I would agree with you. It seems like there's a case for a lot. Yeah, again, and I think the tide is turning on EVS, and I don't want to feel like I'm jumping on the bandwagon. This is something I've been criticizing since day one. Kyle Ritter, the colorist, I think step back, tone it down just a wee bit, because I do love Cyberfrog. I think it's a phenomenal comic. I do enjoy that comic a lot. And for every 6-hour spurging stream of him going off on Eric July is just another 6 hours I gotta wait for my finished comic that I paid for 3 years ago. I saw what EVS said about Old Guys Talking Comics, and I have to sort of right. Last night, Graham Nolan had his closeout, and there was 2,000 people in the chat. And Graham Nolan is older than I, although Graham Nolan could beat the crap out of me. And there's no dishonor in admitting the truth. So whatever, Thanks, John. I feel Cyberpunk is overcalled. I would agree. And this is not a bash on EVS. I still have respect for EVS. I wish we'd have a come to Jesus meeting and focus. I lose my focus within a video. So I can't really complain. I only read Cyberfrog, Warts, and also that that I don't have that because that is a collection of the early issues. I have all the early issues. When I in 2015 I started going backwards and getting all back issues. That was one of the things, and I really enjoyed it. That was excellent. That was excellent. I've seen you. Uh, uh, um, um, I have seen progress pics of what Eric Conte's colors does to his work in Arc Athena. Basically erases any of Eric's line work. Okay, lot to unpack here because I don't know who Eric Conte is. I don't know what Arc Athena is, and but I think I get the gist of what you're saying. And I have to say, there has been cases where I totally agree with you. I can't agree with you in this specific case because I don't know any of the people. But yes, I have seen colorists destroy some artwork, and I have seen colorists that have, oh my God, elevated some artwork. So uh if if I may, if you have Twitter or if you have my look at Renzo's, my artist Renzo Rodriguez. He did the back cover, which is the patriarch like hovering above the farm where his family lives. That is awesome. Now look when I saw the pencils and inks of that, it blew me away. I said, "This is awesome." I got teary-eyed and emotional about how good that page looks, that back cover. Oh my God, it is awesome. And then I saw Daniel Silva D. Rodriguez, no relations. The coloring, it amplified it. So yes, the coloring can enhance, the coloring can subtract. I totally agree with you. Unfortunately, I don't know who Eric can't. I can't even pronounce his name. And what is Arcathena? If you could send me a private message about this, this sounds like something that I'd be interested. I don't mean to do. No, no, no. This is interactive. This is why I do this live. If I didn't want people to comment and distract me, I would pre-record these and then sleep in. Well, he just does draw his comic between 8 and 6 in the morning. Okay, okay. Yeah, I actually believe Ethan when he says he's drawing his book early. Yeah, yeah. I'm would. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Knit just for Cyberfrog. A lot of comics suffer from overzealous colors. I still like the flatter colors from before the age. Yes, absolutely. And when I first got a colorist, I said I want flatter colors like that, and it just didn't seem to work. So yeah, so I had to change coloring styles a few times. A little costly mistake, but that's on me being an amateur. But let's get back to this now. Look at this page. Again, we, Cerberus, the main character, is kind of just like a amateurish scribble. He does seem out of place. We got these figures, and then look at this. Look at this, Marcus. You're the artist. I don't know if anybody else in the chat is an artist. I do know Marcus is, and I just imagine this has got to spend 90% of the time on this panel, and I just love this. Welcome, fools. Do you do now? Keep in mind, Dave Sims doing the lettering. He's doing the coloring. He's doing the shading. He's doing the inking. He's doing everything except the colors. And he's also publishing the comic. He's printing it. He's talking to the printing press, and then he's distributing it. So this is a lot of work. I love Cerberus attack this thing. They're all getting attacked by these tentacle, Scylla like tentacle like fingers, and then again. You get this panel. How long did it take to draw that panel? If the whole book looked like that, I think I'd be a little disappointed, but it works in the one panel, this gray, blobbish, amateurish figure. And then we got this. It's almost like two different artists. Look at Cerebus. Just looks like that cool kid that is quiet during math class who just sits there and draws on it on the cover of his book. Remember back in the olden days when you got a hardcover book and you had to take a brown paper grocery bag and make a cover out of it and you draw on it. There's always one kid that drew cool doodles. That's what this doodle looks like. But then look at this figure. Kind of reminds me of like a John Byrne figure, So even in the in a panel, you could see like the time saver. Let's address the chat. I've been seeing comparisons of modern coloring versus older flats, and I often agree. Yeah, I get off my lawn. I'm an old man. I was made fun of on Twitter the other day that I don't like this modern rock and roll in the coffee shops or the pop shops. You know, completely missing the point. But I tend to agree. Yep, Marcus agrees. It's a great page. I should be talking about the one page splash page, and here we have the confrontation between the warrior and the wizard. Classic Conan confrontation, right? You know, Conan is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've only read one actual Conan story written, you know, prose Robert, you know, Howard Conan story, and but I've read. I'm in the process of reading. I'm up to issue 11 of the actual Barry Windsor Smith, you know, Roy Thomas comic, and then I got stacks and stacks of Savage sort of. The wizard's always the bad guy. The sorcerers are always a bad guy. I can't recall any magic using being who's a good guy in Conan, and it's almost the same in Aardvark, and he just runs his sword through, you know. And here we got back to efficient use of shadows to speed up the art process. I mean, look at this panel. And again, I didn't read any words, and I literally haven't read this comic in I started reading Cerebus. I was in this house, so it's less than 3 years ago, but over a year ago did I read this comic. And I remember the story because of this excellent storytelling. You know, look at that. This panel is the flame jewel, the focus on the flame jewel, and then, you know, how long does it take to draw that? And I'm not knocking Dave Sim. I'm not knocking Dave Sim. I think everybody understands my point is that he is very efficient in where I'm going to put it. George Perez was a master of that. You know, we all remember the super detailed panels of George Perez, but our mind kind of goes over the skimpy, over inked close-ups of a computer panel that took like 42 seconds to draw. We all forget that because the storytelling was so good. It's almost like a quick panel, just a quick frame just goes by. Marcus, good comment. Thank you for reminding me. I think Cerebus is supposed to be out of place. Yeah, I think I said that at the beginning, but yes, I think you were a couple of minutes too late. But Cerebus is drawn in a different style on purpose. So like he's out of place. He's drawn differently. He looks differently. The species is different, and he speaks differently. He speaks like a modern person, and everybody else has kind of like an anachronistic speaking patch. Yes, so he's purposely he's Dave Sim. He's an outsider in the world. He doesn't fit in. He purposely doesn't fit in. And then he antagonizes everybody because he can't fit. He's not trying to fit in. You know, nothing about Cerebus the Aardvark fits in. I was the kid doodling on the brown paper book cover while the rich kids got colorful book covers from the store. Me too. But I was not a good doodler. I doodled, but I was not a good doodler. Matthew Moreau, thank you for showing up. I like Cyberfrog too. Yeah, I got every issue of Cyberfrog. I'm not saying anything bad about it. Just the colors could be toned down a little bit, and it could come out a little bit more often. Like maybe once a year. I'm reading Conan Prose right now. How do you like it? I got to say the one story that I read, I didn't particularly like it that much because I don't remember, but I would have continued because it's every Conan story by Howard in one book, and I only read one, and I'm a completionist, so I must not have liked it that much if I didn't continue. So, you know, here he is. He's got the bag of money, recovering the jewel, and here he is walking out again. You know, efficient use of darkness to cover up and ease the time, but it works because it's skillfully done. Here he is, you know, dealing with the people that paid him. Remember, he's a paid thief at this point. This is a full-on spoof on Conan the Barbarian. You know, again, how long did this take? You know, as opposed to everything else. This, you know, and it works. Works. You know, you risked your life for a walnut. You risked a pouch of gold. The jewel was the product of the wizard sorcery, but the source, you know. So here he is. He gave them the flame jewel, and when they open it up, it's just a walnut. Why? It was the wizard's magic that transformed it into the fire jewel. And Cerberus kind of knew that, so he's like, "There you go. You got what you paid for," you know. Which seems, but Cerberus has no cause for complaint. This is the thieves that would say later on, the first time that they heard the Earth Pig laugh. Earth Pig, aardvark. That's literally what aardvark means. So now he's laughing at them. So they paid him a big thing, big adventure, all for a walnut. And here is the splash page for the next issue. It goes into the, the high bar. And here is the first letters page. Now, this, to me, this is like history. This is the beginning of history. Here is the address that you write to in Canada. And there's, it's. I forget if Dave Sim wrote that. I think Demi wrote this. And talking about the future, his philosophy. What do you want to do? And then these are other Canadian comics. These aren't Aardvark Anaheim comics. Those came later. He starts to become a publisher for other comics. And then look at this primitive George Lucas Star Wars. And here's the back cover. And you can see the inferior, the ink bleeds. The counterfeit doesn't have this. The counterfeit is actually more dynamic, more colorful than the actual comic. Thank you, Heroic Tales. If I might, please, if you could sign up, if I could get 100 people to sign up for my email list, which will keep you up to date on everything that then Michael Bancroft will host my launch party. I have the date set to launch my comic on the 19th of April at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I set that up with Michael Bancroft, and he will host my my launch party. But his two qualifications are that it has to have a reasonable amount of money. Like, he's not going to launch a comic that has a $75,000 thing, and then it's just disappointing on it. He wants drama, he wants excitement. So my comic will have $1,000 goal, and then he wants there to be 100 people to sign up for the list. So I am actively asking people to sign up. I do not spam you. This is my Substack. I think I've only sent like 4 or 5 messages because there's really nothing to report. But now I will start keeping people up to date. So there you go. I bought the complete Conan collection on audiobook. I got about 6 stories in before giving up. Just couldn't get into it. Yeah, it's a difficult read. It's a difficult read. Remember that that Howard was contemporaries with Lovecraft, and as much as I am a Lovecraft fanatic, I will admit that he's a tough read. My wife got all excited to read some of my Lovecraft book. She read what was the name of the story that she read? I forget which story she was. The Outsider. She read The Outsider and she gave up. That was it. She's like, I read one Lovecraft story. That's it. And it's not for everybody. There's a couple of writers that are worth the effort. To me, Lovecraft is worth the effort. I'm sure Howard is worth the effort. I gave it one chance and stopped. And E. Smith, who does The Lensman, that is a rough read, but I think it is worth the effort. Yeah. It's a sign up for John's comic. Thank you. I already hit the like button. Okay. I may be flying to New York for a high school reunion on April 19th. Okay. So maybe Marcus and I could go out to dinner. Where? You're going to be on Long Island? You want me to remind you of something okay. All right. Yes, we'll get to that. I should read Chuck Dixon's Conan books. Yes, Chuck Dixon has a trilogy of Conan books. I think the first 2 are released and the third one is about to be released. Yes, I will try them out. Matter of fact, I got one of them. I got the first one, and I can't remember the title of it. I got a stack of books to read. I got a stack of comics to read. So here's what I was so excited to read this. I was so excited, and I'm not joking. I was buying back issues of Cerebus the Aardvark since 2012, and I finally started reading Cerebus the Aardvark 2 years ago. I'm up to 102 issues. It's a slog. The first 25 issues I loved. I couldn't stop. I read them at fast break furious. And that's when you read all of his introduction of his characters. It's interesting. It's fast paced. It's this barbarian going around sword fighting, getting into drinks, getting into bars, getting into bar fights, getting into drinks, meeting sexy barbarian chicks. And then the church and state story happens. And oh my God, it was, oh, I was like, okay, so what happens is he's a barbarian. He runs around, he fights, he fights, he fights, he kills, he kills, he kills, he steals, he steals, he steals, he wenches, he wenches, he wenches, which is kind of funny because that's what he looks like, and he meets Blue Opal, which is a goof on Red Sonja, and she's in love with him, and she's all sexy, and she's wearing the chainmail bikini just like Red Sonja, and and it's fun goof parody comic done right. It's parodying Conan the Barbarian. I've often said I'm not a fan of parody, but yes, that nothing is a hard set rule. This was a parody done right, and it was excellent. Then it gets to Church and State, and it becomes a commentary. And it's, I'm not even joking. There's issues where it's just the same room. It's just Cerebus looking this way, looking that way, from Worm's eye, and he's handing out papers. And then there's this Groucho Marx character that I can't stand. I know this is blasphemy, and I know I'm oldie Oldenson over here, but Groucho Marx is even too old of a thing for me. I was never a fan of the Marx Brothers. I respect the Marx Brothers. I kind of like Groucho Marx, but not his movies. Like when you see interviews with him and he's on talk shows, and I saw a documentary about him where, he was talking, fascinating person. There's a reason the guy is so popular. But when I watch Marx Brothers movies, I know, like Duck Soup and stuff, I just like that Homer Simpson when his brain just goes, you can stay here, body, but I'm out of here. That's what happens to me, So he just lost me. And I found myself from like I'm going to say around issue 30 to issue 102, reading it because I paid for the comics. I hope it gets better. I hope it gets better. But I will say, if you are interested in Cerebus the Aardvark, get the first 25 issue phone book, and then tread carefully after that. I'm praying it gets better. The art gets better. Oh my God, does the art get better? And the letters pages gets better. The letters page is awesome. Over here, this is all Cerebus. This is all Cerebus. This is all books on top of, what I mean? This is Rin Tin. I'm going to be reading that, but oh my God, so I just kind of like put stuff on top of Cerebus because it is getting to be a slog to read. So Praetor, yes, I have a ton of stuff to read. So investing in 300 series seems like a lot. Yes, absolutely. Dave Sim is his own worst enemy. And I'm my own worst enemy. So I don't feel I'm saying anything that couldn't be applied to myself. So there you go. That's Dave Sim. This is Cerebus. I hope this was enjoyable for you. I do like this, and I'm thinking maybe next week. What would be a good topic for next week? I'm thinking maybe Conan the Barbarian #1, the Roy Thomas Roy Thomas Barry Windsor Smith. How about that? Unless I could think of another indie comic. Oh, Love and Rockets. I'll do Love and Rockets #1. You want to talk about weird? Oh my God, Love and Rockets #1 is by far the worst issue in the series. But I'll start at #1, and then maybe I'll redeem Love and Rockets a couple of weeks later by showing one of my favorite issues. So what do you guys think of that? I hope you had fun with this. I started getting going. It took me a couple of minutes to actually start. My brain was I woke up from a disturbing dream that I wanted to write down because it's a good seed for a very dark story. I don't know if I'll do anything with it, but I don't know about you guys. When I dream in full movies, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I got to write that down. But most of the time I need to go to work. So by the time I get onto the commuter train, the dream is gone, like a fart in the wind. But I today's Sunday, so I actually had time to come down here and write it down. So I'll remember that dream. All right. What Geeks, awesome show. Thank you for coming. Please do Conan. Yeah, I will do Conan, but I think I will do Love and Rockets just to keep this theme of these black and white independent comics going. I did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles last week, Cerebus, and I think Love and Rockets, and I think that'll form like the holy trinity of the black and white independent boom. Just to keep a theme going. And then I will do Conan. Just remind me. I will definitely do Conan. I think I'll do the first issue of the Marvel comic, and then I'll do the first issue of the Savage Sword. So how's it going? How's everybody? I'm going back to work tomorrow after 6 weeks off. Uh, I had my surgery last week. Things are healing up. Like, oh my god, I was such a mess for a couple of days, and then like within a 2 day period, I feel like I got like 90% of everything back, and now it's funny. The only thing that reminds me that I had surgery is underneath my skin is itchy, where the actual surgery was. So you can't scratch underneath your skin. So that I will say thank you, adieu. Um, he's, I don't think he's French Canadian. So I was going to try to pretend to speak French. Good luck at work. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. Man, it's going to be a rough transition after 6 weeks off, sleeping late and doing whatever I wanted to being barked at by my foreman. I uploaded a time-lapse sketch video. It's a sketch of Chi from The Color. Okay. Where can I see this? You said you uploaded it to where? And thanks a lot, everybody. As usual, I will thank everybody. I will beg, borrow, steal. Well, I won't steal, but I don't borrow either. I don't like borrowing. But I will beg you all to please, if you can, I promise I won't spam. I got to get to 100 people to make it to Michael Bancroft. If you can please sign my Substack emailing list. And all I do, I don't spam. I control it. Substack doesn't take your message yet, but all it is me giving you updates about my comic book. Here it is. I was looking for this. So, Substack at johnbua@substack.com. That's all you really need. You could click on this. You just put in your email and again, it'll keep you up to date on my comic heroic tales that I submitted it for approval. I do not think there will be any problem getting it approved. So pretty much it will launch April 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I will have a launch party here on my channel or Michael Bancroft. If I get 1 to 99 subscribers to my email list, I'll launch it here. If I get 100 to infinity, it'll be on Michael Bancroft. So thank you. I don't know what else to say. I guess I'll end it here. Have a great one, everybody. Thank you. It's on my YouTube channel, same as my username. Okay. So, private message me or DM me, on Twitter or in the comment to this video to remind me, because I don't know. My brain is preoccupied with going back to work tomorrow. So here we go. It's John Bua at Substack. Bua is my last name. BUA. It's Italian, and no, it has not been shortened. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you. Again, yeah, I think. Focus. Too many thoughts in my head. Next week, I will do Love and Rockets #1. And if you are like me, you're going to be like, how the hell did this comic become legendary? My sister-in-law, Danielle, she got into comics. She happened to stumble across Bone, and I lent her all my Bone comics, and she loved it. And she asked me to give her another comic book series to read, and I followed it up with Love and Rockets, and she hated it. She could not get past issue #1. I should have been smart and started her at issue #3, but I'm a dumb person. He also posted it on his Twitter. Okay, thank you. I'll check it out. All right. At that note, you guys have a good Sunday. I hope it's nice weather by you. I know it was miserable out yesterday, and I pray that the weather is good next week, because I am not, after 6 weeks off, I can't deal with the cold again. It's remarkable how you get used to what you need to get used to, because I work outside doing construction. So I'm not looking forward to spending my time outside in the elements again. I'm getting too old for that nonsense. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next week. Oh, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will have a conversation with Mike Allred. How cool is that? I love Mike Allred. And Wednesday, I don't have too many live chats scheduled because I didn't know how the surgery was going to deal. So I took last week off a lot, and this week is kind of light. I think the week after that, I'm going back to normal schedule. But so far this week, I only have 2 live chats scheduled. Tuesday with Mark Allred, and then Wednesday I have comic book team up with RJ and Michael Bancroft. That's at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. I think that's all I have scheduled this week. So thanks a lot. I'll see you. Bye bye, everybody.